Welcome to our Touching Greatness 50th Anniversary Tour Special. Here's your host, Ted Sobel.
Thanks very much, Paul Olden, and welcome to a new football season. It is just about there, and we have a very, very special guest today, and I am excited to have him, Joe Flacco. I had a chance to meet Joe at the Newport Beach Country Club a few months back for a charity event, and welcome back to SoCal via Zoom, sir. How are
That's
you?
right. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm great, thanks. And let's talk about your new old gig. You're back in Cleveland again, and what a fantastic! I think just the way you ended your year there a few years back as comeback player of the year. I think you were the toast of the town for quite a while, huh?
Listen, I think it was just man, what an interesting year. I mean, I started at home, just kind of working out on my own, and ended up in a city that was just hungry for some winning football, and had a really good experience. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, and they're welcoming you back big time right now too, with all the little online stuff, and they have their videos, and there you were in OTAs. Was it like, oh wow, I think I've done this before?
It's always interesting. It is a little bit of a unique situation to kind of go back to somewhere that you were, but not in consecutive years,
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly.
It's really cool for me just because there's a lot of guys that are still on the team, and it's such a great
Nice.
locker room, a nice mix of veterans and young guys. Um, and as you can see, the people out there, the fans are absolutely crazy for the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, they are.
Um, and they always have been. And I think you could kind of get a sense for that when you would go on the road and play there,
Yeah,
for a division game, as I have so often.
yeah.
But you couldn't, it wasn't until I was there for a couple months straight where you really got a sense for it.
Yeah. So talk about the city of Cleveland, though, what it's about. Are you into music? And do you ever go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? That's always
Yeah,
my first thought of Cleveland.
I've driven right past the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in a bus,
Really?
heading to the game. That's as close as I've gotten to it right there on the
Okay.
lake.
Yep.
Listen, I can't speak for the city of Cleveland. I haven't been there long enough to know exactly
Of
what it's
course.
all about, but I can tell you it's built with a bunch of good people, good hardworking people, that are prideful about where they're from, and I think that's pretty important.
105 total wins, Super Bowl MVP with the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be on the top of your forehead forever, and that's a nice thing, that nice label to have, isn't it?
It is. I don't necessarily know if I think about it that much, but
Really? Okay.
I think you've heard a handful of guys talk about that recently. It's one of
Okay.
those things that you work your whole life for, and you realize that when you do it, man, it is satisfying. There's something about it that really feels good.
Yeah.
But I think you build it up in your head, uh, how good it's going to be, and I don't think it can ever quite. It just doesn't last. It's not like winning that Super Bowl lasts you like a year.
Yeah.
The NFL season, it's week to week, let
Sure.
alone year to year. So, memories are short lived, and you kind of get right back to the grind and try to do it all over again.
Yeah, you think maybe it's the kind of thing though where you'll enjoy it more after you retire, and then you'll be around family and friends, and you'll talk about it in
Yeah.
different ways.
Well, just like you said,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that it can never be taken away from you. We went out there and accomplished that as a group of men.
Yeah.
I'll forever have relationships with the guys that were on that team, and yeah, it's awesome. Just this sport, just sports in general. What I found is all the stories are great. Not just it'll be a great story living back and in 10 years sitting around the fire and talking about
Sure.
some of the stories that came from that year. But honestly, like as sports go, even a lot of the bad things that happened turn into really good stories 20 years down the road, especially when you can look at it and say, man, we persevered and got through that. I
Exactly.
think maybe the bad stories wouldn't be as fun to talk about if you never kind of won the whole thing. But having won the whole thing, even those bad stories, you can kind of see in a new light. and have fun talking about them.
Okay, so I know you're a good storyteller. As a matter of fact, it was pretty funny. I saw a video yesterday, you at camp, and they're saying, yeah, the GM just wanted, he says, Joe was telling stories the whole time. So can you give us a couple of stories that maybe most people don't know from that Super Bowl?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot.
That's my job.
I don't know if I'm a great
Fun
storyteller.
things.
I honestly don't know if I'm a very good storyteller, but I love sitting in there and talking about when you're in a room with
Yeah.
guys that are curious about whether it's learning football or kind of hearing a little bit about the past or hearing your perspective on things. Stories just start flowing,
Yeah.
and it is fun to talk about those things. And it's kind of like when you were back in high school and you had the one kid that could distract a teacher for long enough to kind of maybe get through one class per week or something like that. I think I'm capable of doing that with our meeting room every now and then. Like, once
Okay.
every couple of days when kind of training camp's getting long and all of a sudden, we need a little bit of a break. I'll probably
Right.
be the guy that can kind of get us out of a half hour of meetings
Right.
and keep it a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
But man, back to that Super Bowl run. I mean, there's so many fun things that I remember. I mean, just sitting in just the bus rides from the hotel that we stayed in New Orleans to the practice facility. The stupid games we were playing on our phone and the eruptions that we had on our bus. The biggest thing I remember from that week is just the kind of flow state that our whole team seemed to be in. And it's very easy to say that after, we won the game. So it's easy to look back on that and say, man, like we were just kind of in that zone.
Yeah.
But there is something about that I think is real. And that was my fifth year, and the team was very similar. Obviously, the teams in the NFL changed so much year to year,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of carryover throughout those 5 years on the
Okay.
defense, on the offense. So and I feel like we had gone through a lot in those 5 years. We had been to the playoffs every year. We had lost some tough games, won some unbelievable games. So to have had that shared experience going into that game, I really do think it kind of gave us that little advantage. We had been through so much, especially the year before. We lost in the AFC Championship game
Yeah.
in a game that we were so close to winning. I just think that we had experienced so much together at that point. It made it special.
Was there anything funny that you can recall happened in that Super Bowl, like in the locker room or something, even at halftime, that like loosened up the guys at all? Because there's usually a couple of things that pop up.
Yeah, man.
I know it's a long
I
time
just
ago now.
It is. I remember being crammed into we were in a visiting locker room and we were kind of
Okay.
crammed into this little hallway and you're kind of with a group of like 5 to 10 guys there and you're just kind of hanging out, especially at the halftime there, because it's a long halftime. And
Yeah.
then I don't remember anything specifically super funny, but
Okay.
I tell you, we were relaxed. We were playing games. We were doing things like that really weren't kind of, we honestly, we talked about football for a little bit and then we kind of started distracting ourselves by playing little games and um taking
Trying
our
to
mind
keep it,
off of things for a little
yeah,
bit.
try to keep it a little more normal as opposed to
I
getting caught up
Yeah,
in the
for
hype.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you think about that game you can kind of get caught up in the pressure of it, because when you do get there you do realize, man, this is a game that you want to win. You don't want to
Yeah.
get all this way and all for nothing. That would the further you go into the playoffs the harder the losses become. But for some reason, we were able to not let like the gravity of that situation. We were able to like not let that get to us and just be relaxed. And I really do. I think it's because we had lost some of those hard games in the
Sure.
past, and
Yeah.
we knew like, hey, man, this is all about us. Let's just go let it fly, and yeah, and the outcome will be the outcome.
Yeah. Was it a little surreal though to finally hold that Lombardi? It's like, wow, this is mine now, baby.
It is because you watch it.
Yeah.
You watch it on TV your whole life.
Exactly.
You've put yourself, I don't care who you are, if you're playing in this league, you've put yourself in that position up on that podium holding that trophy. And like I said, there is a part of it that you build up in your head bigger than it actually is. Once you do you're just there. You're in the moment. It comes
Yep.
and it goes, and it happens pretty quickly. And then you're getting pulled in all kinds of different directions. I think that's the one thing about that game that's a little bit disappointing is you do kind of get broken up from your team after the game.
Yeah,
You're not able to go hang out and celebrate in the locker room quite like you can in a normal game because everybody's getting pulled in a million different directions for this interview and that interview. So that's the thing I kind of remember about it. I remember being up there, but you're kind of separated from everybody. I do really, there's part of me that wishes I was able to be with the guys a little bit more than I was, down on the field, in the locker room, because after a normal game, you're in that locker room pretty quick.
sure.
And you're hanging out with everybody, and your coach is giving you a nice little speech and bringing you all together, and you're all kind of got a big smile on your face, and that didn't quite happen in that game because the celebration kind of happens on the field,
Yep.
and then you get pulled into the back of the stadium and you're doing interview after interview. So it is a little bit different than a normal experience, and I think you miss out on a little bit of that as a player. You just have to, but you have to be in the moment and just kind of enjoy it for what it is.
You've been with 8 different franchises, 2 of them, of course, one of them twice now with Cleveland.
Right, that's right.
But I'm just wondering, at the end of winning a Super Bowl year, is that the kind of thing like, okay, this is totally different because these guys are a family and a fraternity that you can't equal because of what we did? Is that a different feeling in that way?
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of like, hey, when you accomplish something like that together, you're forever linked, and
Yeah.
you do feel that. There's no doubt about it. I think you feel that going into the game. You know that could link you guys forever, and it excites you. And that's just undeniable. And even if it's kind of like, it's kind of like I know I have a bunch of siblings and I don't see them for 6 months, but when we do see each other, we pick right back up. And I
Yep.
think it's very similar in that sense.
Interesting. Okay, so you played for John Harbaugh at the start of your career. This will be your second stint with Stefanski in Cleveland. Give us a couple of stories about those two guys that makes them a little bit more different than your typical. Because I know John Harbaugh is a lot different than a lot of head coaches in the league.
Yeah, well, listen, John, I don't want to speak too much about who he is. But listen, he knows how to get the most out of his players, his coaches, and he grinds them. And you have to be able to go in there and work hard. He's going to figure out if you're somebody that's not willing to put up with the grind. And, that's how it is. And that's why I think they've been able to be successful. It's part of the reason they've been able to be successful so long. And John wasn't afraid of that conflict. I mean, there's plenty of times where we were out in the practice field or out at a walkthrough, and I would get in it with John, or somebody else would get in it with John, and we'd have that conflict. Or every training camp, it doesn't matter what we were doing in training camp. At some point, we'd have to go with John and say, "Yo, man, like, what are we doing here? We're out. You got us on the field for 5 hours at a time," and so he always wanted to make it uncomfortable. We always used to say, how can you get comfortable being uncomfortable? And he did a really good job of creating an environment that was so much harder than when you would go out on the field on Sundays.
So
If you could
more
create,
old school.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I think he picked that up from being with Andy Reid in Philadelphia, and I think he definitely,
Probably his dad.
especially, yeah. He grew up around it.
Exactly.
I think especially early on in his time in Baltimore, he wanted to set that tone. And as the time passed, he realized there were certain places where he could, back off of this a little bit and back off of that a little bit. But the core was always there, and he did a good job of building that from day one. And listen, with Kevin, I've been there 2 months, plus a little bit of an off season.
Right.
But just his demeanor, and how he gets in front of the team and leads the team with consistency, and same thing. It's a different era. It's a different time. It's a different type of practice schedule and all those things that we live in today. It's a little bit tougher to set those same standards from day one because you just can't do some of the things that we were doing back then. But he still does. He still has a little bit of that in his personality that comes through. A little bit of that old school personality that comes through. It doesn't matter what kind of era we are and how and what the direction of football and how the game is these days. Toughness still matters.
Sure.
Being competitive, having a bunch of players that want to compete on a daily basis is still super important. And I think that Kevin does a great job in kind of building those things and making sure that he's got guys that are doing those things.
Is he more of a player's coach than most?
I don't know. I don't think Kevin's trying to be a player's coach
Okay.
or not a player's coach.
Okay.
I think he's trying to be who he is,
Sure.
and I think that's what works best. I think the same thing with John. I definitely think that there was that he wanted to set the tone, but
Right.
he was being true to who he was.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you guys have the kids in the room. Okay. That
Yes.
quarterback room is more like like first grade for you, hanging out with these kids. You're twice their age almost, right?
It's amazing that I've gotten to this point where I'm that much older. I mean, I'm Kevin's a little bit older than me, but I'm older than
Right.
Tommy. I'm older than most of the guys in that room, obviously.
Okay.
It's a unique situation, but it's fun. Listen,
Sure.
I when I'm in those rooms, I don't view myself as being older than them, honestly. I guess I do a little bit, but I don't see myself as being as old as I actually am. I've been fortunate enough to be in a locker room my whole life. So like there's
Right.
still a big kid in me to be honest with you. So
That's great.
I think it's more them that realizes like I'm kind of oblivious to how old I am, but they can tell. They definitely look at me like kind of side-eyed, like what the hell, what's going on?
Okay.
But
I saw one video, Joe, where they talk about, can you do this dance? And you say, hey, that dance is not in me. I don't know what the hell you're thinking.
It's not. It never was. It never was though. It's not just because that time has passed. It was never in me. So
I got you. All right. So talk about the kids. Okay. You got 2 draft picks in the quarterback room. That's very unusual for any team. And now you guys are in a sort of a rebuild situation. What's it like dealing with them, and how are you as a mentor? Because that's half of your job, I would think, right?
listen, it's a room. We're a collaboration once we get in there.
Right.
It's a unique position because one guy plays, but when you're in that room together, it is a group effort, and you're learning football. You're learning a game plan. Everybody's energy is going towards being the best they can. And I think we got a room full of guys that want to be really good. And I think when you have that, then it just it promotes you know it promotes competition and
Sure.
just good conversations, and it gets the most out of everybody. So I think it's been good. I think everybody's very focused in there, and we can all learn a little bit from each other.
Yeah. So like in this particular picture here, Shedeur Sanders, you're like talking to him. Is he asked you anything that like you could pass on to us that a typical first pick would be a first year player would be talking about and trying to pick your brain?
I think people have it in their minds that we're always talking football and always trying to learn football, but a lot of these moments are completely the opposite of that. So I can't tell you exactly what's going on, but I would guess it's something like that.
Okay. But any specific questions he has asked you? I mean, one of the things I think about, Joe, is it takes a while. I don't care who you are and how great you were in college. You got to learn to read pro defenses.
Right.
If I'm him and I'm anybody, hey, Joe, can we talk about this for like hours at a time?
I think the bigger thing, honestly, when you're first starting out is like, how did you compartmentalize all the different lingo and all the different language that goes into the play call? And how did you put, how did you sort it out in your head so that you can simplify it and go out there and play fast? And honestly, I think as young quarterbacks, that's the thing they should focus on is mastering our game plan. And I think a lot of the questions that these guys have is around that. I think they're good questions. How do you decide what's the most important and what you can kind of like put on the back burner a little bit, when you're first learning something?
Yeah. So you got Dillon, Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. How different are their personalities when you're dealing with them just as people on the field?
Yeah, well, we're all different.
Yeah.
But the good thing about being in a room together where we're all working towards a common goal is that a lot of those things are the things that you see. I mean, everybody approaches their game and their deal in a little bit of a different way, but we all have that common goal, which makes us pretty similar. We're just trying to be good football players. Um, some of the guys might be a little bit more quiet. Some guys might like to joke around a little bit more.
Sure.
I think we got a little bit of a mix of it, and I like that. It keeps the room light. It allows us to remember that we're here to have fun and win football games, and we get to do something that not too many people get to do. So you have to feel pretty fortunate about that.
Yeah, I would think the kids though too would be in a spot where they want to learn from you because
For sure.
and is that the way they come across?
I think you got to give them credit in that sense. They
Good.
have definitely come across that they want to learn,
Excellent.
and they realize that that's going to give them the best chance to be the players they want to be.
Okay, Mr. 40-year-old mentor, who taught you something that will stay with you forever when you were first coming up that you could pass on to these two kids?
Man, I had some guys in the room. So when I first came in, it was Kyle Bowler and Troy Smith, and we were kind of
Sure.
just in the room together. And those guys were going at it, and I was just trying to pick up as much as I could. Um, Todd Bauman is a guy that backed me up early in my career. He was kind of a journeyman backup throughout the league,
Yeah.
and I think he had played with some guys that just, he played with Brett Favre and he played with a handful of guys, and he got a couple chances to play in the league and did really well. And I just think the biggest thing he gave me was the stability, and he kind of gave me a shoulder to lean on and kind of be that guy that when I was going through maybe some tough times my rookie year, he was always there to be the positive influence and kind of share some examples of maybe what he's gone through in his career. So Todd is still a friend today and was definitely a
Good.
huge influence on the beginning part of my career. And then listen, we had a bunch of guys on that defense that were just, the best to ever do it. So
Exactly.
and it wasn't necessarily things that they said or anything, but you could just watch those guys. I think one of the most important things as a young player is when you're around guys that have done it at a high level for a really long time, just watch them, see what they do. And you're not going to pick up everything, but I think if you pick up one thing, that's going to do your career a huge service.
Yeah, one of the things that from all sports is they always hear the term learn how to be a pro.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Right?
listen, every practice that we were at, Ray Lewis was full speed. Now I don't know if he was taking 100% of the reps, but when we were out there and he was on the field, he was locked in. He was year 15, he was locked in, running full speed, calling plays out. There was no letdown. It was always full speed, and you could tell that he was having fun and he was in his element. And that always resonated with me. He wasn't going out there and dilly-dallying around and loafing around. He was
Right.
full speed, fully locked in, year 15. Like it was
Right.
and you could tell he was having fun, like it was brand new for him. And I think that's really important.
Sure.
It was a really big wake-up call for how to attack, each and every day.
And you're also talking about one of the most intense players who ever lived, too, right? If any of that rubs off on whoever,
That's right.
that's a great thing.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. How are you doing with just gaining some rapport with your new receiver crew out there?
Well, hopefully decent, but like this off season wasn't, really an off season where I was able to get a ton of reps in.
Right.
So you kind of you don't force anything. You just be yourself. You go out there and you do it. I think we got some good young guys. I think we got some guys that are excited, to go out there and be the best they can and
Right.
win games, but also guys want to have careers that they can look back on and say, man, look at what I did. And I hope that I can be put in a position to help them, do the things they want to do. And like I said, I don't think I think it's just the beginning. It wasn't like I was able to get a million reps with these guys. So hopefully this
Sure.
training camp, we can start to build that up a little bit and get them really, really confident about where we might go this year.
Yeah, sort of weird though, walking into campus like, what was your name and what was your name?
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, that's how it always is, man. There's
I
so
know.
much turnover in this league, and I think when you're a young guy, you kind of have a good picture of the land of like the college football landscape and who guys are, and you just know like players in the league and who's coming out.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of have been in the league for 10, 11, 12 years, you stop paying attention to that stuff as much. So you have to do your homework on who you're going to work with and
Right.
make sure you really know some stuff about these guys. So
Right. So are you a big sports fan outside of this? Because here I know you play golf, right? And I assume you like tennis because I recently saw this as oh, I'm sorry, I missed something there. Hold on a second. There you go. This little Roger Federer thing, and you,
Dude,
you've seen that, right?
I love watching tennis, and like I love, I think, man, I was probably 20, 22, 23, 24, 25 years old where Roger was just doing his thing. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Obviously listen, the three guys that just finished up with him, Djokovic and Nadal. I mean,
Yep.
Djokovic is still going, but he's kind of towards the end a little bit. I
Yep.
mean, I just think we were so fortunate to be able to watch those guys play for as
No
long
doubt.
as they did. Tennis
Yep.
it's just, yeah, it's a cool sport. It's nothing that I played growing up. I've taken some lessons like in the last
Okay.
couple of years that I've hit a
Right.
ball around in the last couple of years. It was just fun to watch, and I think it was because those guys were playing, and it was cool to see their different styles, but how they all made it work. Um, I haven't watched as much recently, but I did catch the tail end of the final that just finished on Sunday, and I
Yeah.
think those guys have a chance. Sinner
They
and,
do.
and
Oh,
and Alcaraz, I think they have a
I think
chance
they've
to
won
kind
the
of
last 7 majors,
they
so that's pretty good.
they have, yeah, they have. And I know
Right.
there's another couple young guys that are kind of like maybe like right around ranked number 10 or 11 in the world right now that are also kind of coming up. So maybe one of those guys can make a push to kind of compete with them,
Right.
and you get another 10 to 15 years of like a pretty cool run in tennis.
Right.
I think it's always interesting to look at different sports, especially I've always played team sports. I
Okay.
think there's something that when you look at those individual sports, there's something that you can learn from it.
Right.
I think the cool thing about team sports is you get to do it with a bunch of guys. You get to sit around and talk and tell stories and enjoy it with people. I always think as a team sport guy, we're a little bit more fortunate that we get to enjoy what we do with a big group of people that we really care about.
Yes, sir.
I think those individual sports guys, I think it's kind of cool to look at it from an outsider, but there's got to be something about it that's a little bit lonely. So I'd probably like to keep it just as an outsider view.
Yeah, this is the loneliest sport of all. I got this shot of you taking a swing out there at Newport Beach. What was that like coming down here in SoCal for that? That was a really nice setup, and you had some great athletes in that event.
It was cool. Yeah, I mean, listen, I got some buddies that are out there that play in that little tournament every year, and I just happened to be out
These
there.
guys?
Yeah, those guys.
Quarterbacks?
Those guys aren't the ones that invited me, Chase and
Oh,
Brett,
okay.
Chase and Brett. But I was, but yeah, I played with Brett. I never got to play with Chase. I played
Oh,
with
okay.
Brett in Denver though, so it was cool to see those
Nice.
guys. It's always cool to go to events. It's not like I see a bunch of guys that I've played with all year. So when you go to little places and you get to see some guys that and catch up with them a little bit, it's always a lot of fun.
I got a chance to interview Jack Nicklaus the day before your thing. So there we are there. How much are you into the history of the game?
Oh, I think if you quizzed me, I don't know if I would do too well, but obviously,
Okay. No, I don't want to quiz you.
obviously Jack's the guy. What's he have? 18 majors, and
Yes,
who knows
exactly.
who knows how many wins. So
A gazillion.
yes, that's right.
Yeah. So let's do a little lightning round here. The
All
new
right.
rules. Okay.
Okay.
Your thoughts on overtime now that both teams get to touch the ball?
Is there a new rule this year, or you're just saying in general from like the time that I've been starting to play? And you're confusing me here. Overtime's been that way, right? Where both
Right, but
teams get to
don't
possess
they
the
have
ball.
something? Don't they have something that they've added to that? Maybe the amount of time. I don't know, but it's 10 minutes.
Yeah, I honestly don't.
quarter.
If they've added something else, then when the refs come to training camp in Cleveland, they'll update us on all those rules.
How about the tush push? Are you glad it's there still? It doesn't affect you a whole lot, though, right?
Yeah. Listen. It's a football play. If you want to get rid of it
Fair.
and stop. Yeah, exactly. They're just doing a normal play,
And how about the first downs with the Hawkeye? That's a tennis-like thing.
Are they doing
right?
that? Are they doing something
Well,
with the ball?
I think they're going to do that in camp. I think.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think everybody wants to move towards the most accurate way of doing these things. I mean, look how far we've come in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, replay's only gotten better and better and better. And you look back on some of the old games and you're like, oh my gosh, imagine if there was replay, it would change things. But I think everybody likes the direction that we've moved in that, in that regard.
Okay, as fans and the media, the first thing we look at is the schedule. You guys have one hell of a tough schedule to start the year. Play Cincinnati at home week 1, and then 5 straight weeks against playoff teams.
I think
only
the AFC,
one at home.
Yeah, I think the AFC North always has a tough schedule.
Yeah,
I mean, there's 3 or 4 teams, I mean, that can make the playoffs every year. I mean, I know there's a handful of years that I was in Baltimore that 3 teams in the AFC North made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think, like, it's not like Baltimore doesn't have a tough schedule either, but they were just the top team in the division. So, like, their schedule doesn't get ranked quite as hard. And last year, Cleveland was at the bottom of the division. So every team in the division is better than them technically by record. So our strength of schedule gets ranked a little bit higher, but it's depending on the division that you're playing in, because you're playing each of those teams twice a year, and we happen to have a tough division. There's no way around it. You have to play good teams, and listen, if you can't beat them, then what are you doing anyway? It's
you don't
part
deserve
of the business,
to move
man.
on, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But is there a special comfort level though with you being in that division for so many years, or does it matter?
Yeah, listen, they're all outside stadiums. I love playing outdoors. There's 3 out of the 4 grass. Right. I love that. You're going to play in a little bit of weather. I don't know if I love that, but I tend to kind of enjoy it, a little bit. Hey, it's a little bit. There's certain aspects about it. Since I've kind of come into the league, that it's a little bit more old school football, and you have to be able to bring your defense and play tough football to win games. And I think there's something about that you can hang your hat on and be proud that you played in that type of division. So
okay, so you're 40 years old. Can you go a few more here, Joe, or are you just taking it one day at a time, not even 1 year at a time?
Yeah, listen, I'd love to. I think I can, but I do. In order to do that, you have to take it one day at a time. A lot of people ask me, like, why are you still doing it? And I don't really have a great answer. I mean, I have something in my head. I just don't know if I can put it into words. But I think guys are curious because when you're in year 2 and you're looking ahead, if somebody told me in year 2 or 3 that you're going to be going into year 18 and you're still playing, that can be a little bit overwhelming. There's something about that just seems like, really, that's a long time. Like, do I really want to do it that long? But when you take it day by day, it's just what you do. And it's what I've done since I've been 13 years old. So I really don't know any other way. So I'm just doing it. I'm taking it day by day. I'm not planning on not doing it. I'm just planning on going to work the next day and waking up and doing it again. And that's what I do. And awesome. Eventually, maybe there will be something that tells me, okay, you're done. But I really haven't thought about it to that.
It's the old story. If you love what you do, why not do it as long as you can, right?
Well, that's what there's not too many other professions where you get to be deep, where you can be pretty good at something and you're right in the middle of it and you're making a couple bucks and you just stop for no reason. So, I enjoy doing it. I count myself as being pretty fortunate to be able to do it. So why not?
So, but if they told you tomorrow, that's it, Joe, you're done, get out of here. Do you have plans for your next life?
No. I probably plan on being bored for a piece of that, a piece of that time, but I don't think that will last long either. I mean, 3 weeks into the off season, and boredom sets in. So I know I'm going to need to do something, but I don't have a big plan. Listen, I've been a football player. I've been fortunate enough to do what I've wanted to do since I've been 6, 7, 8 years old. And it may take me some time to figure out what I want to do beyond that.
Okay, let's wrap it up with low expectations around the league for the Cleveland Browns. So all that means is you guys can surprise the hell out of everybody any week. So would that be a nice rally cry to start camp?
I don't know if you want to say that, because that's just you're almost framing it in a negative way. But I do think that there's a sense of nothing to lose with us.
Right.
Like, we should be able to go out there and play free. And and let it all out there without any fear. Like we don't have to hold on to anything and protect anything. Let's just go out there and play football and see what happens here. So I do think you can be dangerous when you have that mindset. I think the best teams, they do have that mindset. Even though there are expectations, they find a way to have that mindset when they go into every Sunday. And that's why they're able to be successful. That's why when there's 2 minutes left and the game's on the line, they don't feel the pressure as much as the other team, and they win the game. Like you talk about teams that know how to win. They're the teams that know how to win. They're able to just go out there and play freely and do it as a team. So
yeah. So last thing, you've been projected the number one starter, but you never know. I mean, you still got to earn it, right? In camp, who knows who's going to do what? You don't know till it happens. Is it a little weird of a different feeling than most beginning of camps for you? Because you either knew you were a backup or a starter, but here it's like, who knows? Yeah,
listen, I think it's exciting. And I don't know if I've been projected number one or what. I think it probably depends on who you talk to. So I'm just excited about getting back there and playing football. And as much as it is a competition and going out there, I just got to go out there and be myself and play loose and do what I know how to do. And I think everything else will fall into place. So I'm excited about it. Anytime you get a chance to be the guy in this league, it is very special. So I'm excited about it.
So Cleveland Browns, you got me as a fan. What can I tell you? I'm rooting for you big time this season, sir. Really appreciate you coming on the show to start off the NFL season. And I hope to see you down the road sometime, maybe even on a golf course, and hit them straight the next time you do it, right?
I'll try. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll see.
That's Joe Flacco. We appreciate his time. And the new Cleveland Browns are going to start a whole new season. Camp opens up next week, folks. Here we go again. Thanks again, Joe.
You got it.